bids are in. The gavel is dropped. Ladies and gentlemen, here at WineBid, we are finally hammered. That's right. This is WineBid's podcast, taking all things wine value, wine retail, wine auctions, and just wine. My name is Jeff Gurn on the WineBid marketing team. With me, as always, is Paul Walker, the shogun of Shiraz. That's right, our wine expert here. Paul, welcome to the podcast again. Paul, today we're going to be going over the rest of the world. When I say the rest of the world, what I mean is everywhere outside of the United States and France. We're going to be talking about all the stuff we have coming into auction this week.
Oh, no, let's qualify that. We're going to be talking about select examples of
That's
all
what
of
I mean. That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
We're talking about all the wine that's coming in.
The bots listening know what I mean, Paul. The bots understand, okay? They've got artificial intelligence. They're smarter than we are, and they know what we're talking about here. We're going to jump right into it. Let's start with, we'll do a little tour, a tour of Italy, a la Olive Garden, your favorite restaurant, Paul. That's there, the tour of Italy. That's what we're doing right now. We're just going to pick some highlights. I'm going to start in Piedmont, right? We've got this 96 Bruno Giacosa Barolo Folletto Reserva for $250. We've got two of those. I thought that one was pretty cool. The 95 Giuseppe Rinaldi Barolo Brunate Lacoste for $260, and this 05, the Coste, that's what I said. This 05 Roberto Vorzio Barolo Brunati.
Vorzio, that's a hard one, actually.
Agree to disagree.
That OE vowel combination can trip you up every time.
Every damn time.
I know what you're talking about, so I guess that's okay.
That's right. I'm trying to spell it pronounce it phonetically for the bots.
Well, Italian is much more phonetically pronounced than French, at least in a lot of cases. But anyway, continue. What is the Vorzio wine? Because there actually was a big batch of it that went in auction last week, but I was curious, or a couple of weeks ago.
It's the 05 Barolo Brunate for $185.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
What were your Piedmont picks, Paul?
It's exciting to see mid-90s Giuseppe Rinaldi wines. We often see wines from the last 20 or so years, but not usually older than that. 95 and 96 Lacoste were my picks as well. The Giacosas are interesting. Barbaresco Rabaia always interests me too, because it's a little bit rarer, a little bit harder to find vineyard source. And 18 Vietti Barolo Lazzarito also. Yeah. So, yeah. And then presumably going to cruise up to Tuscany, or down to Tuscany, I should say.
We're going to go down to Tuscany. Did you see this 88 Sassi?
Yes, I did. There's a few different vintages of Sassicaia, but the 88 caught my eye for sure. Yeah.
I mean,
there's an 88, 06, 08, 2010. I actually just picked all of them just because I was on a roll. But yeah, that's great. The one super rare wine I thought was fascinating this week was the 83 Grottamaco. I didn't even know that Grottamaco was around in the 80s. It's from Bulgaria, which is, it's got a lot of famous neighbors. And I actually didn't know that there were that many known vineyards in Bulgaria at the time, because it was popularized much later in the 90s with obviously the big guns we know today. But anyway, 83 Grottamaco caught my eye. I thought that would be a really fun wine to try.
I saw this
Magnum 15 also, and there's 16 Biondi Santi Brunello, which needs like 30 years, but anyway, that's available. And the San Giusto Rentanano 1990, actually, speaking of another Tuscan wine with a lot of time on it, the 1990 San Giusto Rentanano Pericarlo for $150 was interesting. So
I also saw this 07 Flacianello de la Pave, which looked good for $160. I didn't think that was a terrible price. And I think did you mention the 15 Fattoria de Falsina.
I mentioned that, the Fontoloro Magnum.
Yeah. Did you mention that? Yeah, I thought you did. For $120. I was like, that's pretty cool for $100.
Yeah, they make great wine.
Yeah, I mean, $60 per 750, not bad at all.
Their Reserva Arancia, Chianti retail is actually quite expensive now. So finding a mat of Fontoloro, the Super Tuscan for $120, it's a relative bargain in my opinion.
That's pretty cool. Let's go down to Basilicata. 2020 Elena Fucci Aglianico del Vuture Titolo for $30. We got 3 of those.
Who's the producer? This Alianico?
Alana Fucci, Fucci.
Huh. I don't know that one at all. Elena Fucci. Yeah, no, I don't know this one at all.
But that one was super interesting.
It's got bids on it. It's got a big old score. That's probably why.
Oh, it's got $30
Alianico with 95 points. It's, not surprising.
It's gonna go. I don't know if you saw in Campania, there's a bunch of this Gallardi Terra.
Yeah, no, it's true. We were talking about there's a mag a couple weeks ago of Terra de Lavoro, and of course it seemed like a much better deal. It got bid up quite a bit because I think it was like $70 or something for a mag, and I was like, that's a steal. But no, it definitely got bid up. I think almost to $100, and so not surprising then that you see, all of these other vintages in this week are starting. Well, no, they're all starting at 50 for the 05. So, but yeah, great wines. I love this stuff. It's just phenomenal. And a lot of them seems to get the Gembro Rosa's Tre Bicchieri award like almost every year. They're really, really delicious wine.
Did you also see this in Trentino Alto Adige, the 2015 Heinrich Mayer?
Oh, is this the Lagrein?
Yeah, the Lagrein.
Yeah, I did see that because that's an interesting wine. I'm curious about that. I did see it. You don't see a ton of Lagrein in the auction, and so it's kind of I don't know this producer at all, so that's pretty cool.
I thought this one looked super interesting.
Heinrich Mayer, I don't know. Yeah.
And then in Umbria, we've got this 07 Paolo Bea Umbria Rosso San Valentino.
Yeah, another Bea wine snuck in this week. I think there's actually quite a bit of it.
There's one bottle the one bottle we have that was, the 07, we've got one of those. There's a bid on it already. Take it from 50 to 51.
Interesting. Yeah, because there's some that was new from previous weeks. But yeah, that one did pop in this week. I saw it too. So let's
head over to Germany, shall we?
Sure.
Just a quick jaunt. 1969 Ferdinand Pierrot.
No, the Pierrot wines. Yeah.
Riesling Auslese ice wine. I mean, look, there's a ton. I thought that was cool from 140. There's 4 of those. There's a ton of cool stuff coming in from Germany this week from the 70s, especially some Trockenbeeren Ausleses for TBAs, some ice wines, some Baron Auslese ice wines, just some really cool old stuff from the 70s and 80s coming in. A lot of it too is like under $100, a 76 Baron Auslese for $65. Yeah. So, multiple 76 Baron Auslese for for $65. Even some of the ice wines are like $90, right? A 75 Baron Auslese ice wine for $90. I think those are tremendous deals for that wine.
Yeah, there's an interesting, looks like probably a lot of it came from, the same seller. Also interesting too, to note that like these 71 Pierrot wines are original owner. Yeah, I noticed too, there's another producer I've never heard of, Emil Hamel, Bisterheimer, Goldberg, Schriebe. So it's Schriebe Auslese, that's not even Riesling, but from 89 looks really, really interesting. And that's what's got a bid, but it's $46. And then there's some Herzberger also. Those are Austrian. Sorry, I put the wrong category in here. Anyway, 76 Ohlenschlager, Donnerskinner, Sonnenberg, Trockenbeeren Auslese. There's 5 of those, which I thought was wild for 140. Not a terrible price from such a phenomenal vintage. So yeah, the interesting batch of stuff this week for sure.
Really cool German stuff. Spain. We take a little jaunt south, ton of Vega Sicilia Unico, like 90, 94.
It looks like another really nice batch. I wonder if that's what seller that's from. But yeah, anyway, very cool.
Somebody dumped a ton of Vega Sicilia Unico. And then there's a bunch of reasonably priced stuff. So there's some 73 Lopez de Heredia, Vina Bosconia, Grand Reserve for 285, an 09 Vino Bosconia Reserva for 42. That means I already got a bid on it. A bunch of the Vino Bosconia Reservas from the more recent vintages, 09, 11, have bids on them, but they're very reasonably priced, under $50.
Yeah.
And then there's some 73 Lopez de Heredia Vina Tondonia Grand Reserve for 280. Just like a bunch of really cool stuff in Spain at all ends of the price spectrum, which I thought was super neat. Some really cool Austrian stuff too, actually. A bunch of the Alois Krecher, some Bernauslese, some Trockenbernauslese, some Riesling Schmargs, just a bunch of really cool stuff. Some Ferdinand Pirot Trockenbernauslese from the 70s for $70, like 71 for $70. Like a lot of really cool, interesting stuff. Oh, and some Sauvignon Blanc from Günther and Regina Schrienbaumer. So I would definitely check out the Austrian wines if you're into Austrian wine at all. Like
the Herzberger wines were the ones that I noticed this week because you don't see them very often.
Well, we don't. It's not like we see tons of Austrian wine coming to auction every week anyway.
It's rare. It's harder to find at auction probably than boutique retailers usually will carry a selection. But yeah, it's always kind of exciting to see. And I think the 19 Herzberger Steinports, that got bids on it at 56, also got huge scores. So, people are probably going after it for multiple reasons. But anyway, yeah, always fun to see those because they don't pop up that often.
We've got some Tokai in from the
Tokai in, yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of 90, actually from 93, a bunch of Tokai. And it ranges in price. There's some $75 Tokai all the way up to $390. So some interesting older Tokai in auction. Portugal, I mean, there's, some, we always have some interesting stuff coming in from Portugal. This week is no exception. There's a lot of older stuff from the 70s, 90s, 60s even. I picked out the 94 Fonseca for 135. We also got a Mag for 235. I knew you would be all over that because, as you know and have memorized many times, it was the number one wine of Wine Spectator's Top 100 in 1997.
I actually do remember that. I do remember that. every 10 years or so they pick a port for their number one wine. But yeah, I'm curious. I haven't tried any of those 90s vintage ports since release, but there's some great, there's a lot of interesting, there's two cases of Nieport's 20-year Tawny, which I actually picked because I love that stuff. I love Tawny Port. I actually have it open like all the time. I think they're at $50 and I was like, that seems kind of high. But then I looked and retail starts at like 60, 65. So I was like, that's not too bad. I love Nieport. And there's also interesting that, from Portugal, there's a dry wine from Nieport this week called Tinto Charme or Charme. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but CHARME, that I had to look up because I know there's, obviously a ton of dry wine from Portugal that never really makes it to the US, much less the West Coast. But anyway, there were some pretty cool notes about it on Cellar Tracker. So that was an interesting one, $55 for that 17 Nieport Tinto Charme. There's a 63 Quinta Noval, four of them for $170, which if you're interested in this producer, they make obviously Nacional, which is frightfully expensive, but the Quinta Noval, they're sort of baseline vintage port, if you will. 63, phenomenal year. It's at 170, which is far, 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 far less than Nacional, which I think is probably four figures at least. So anyway, yeah, some interesting port popped in this week for sure.
Super interesting port. Let's head over to South Africa. We've got two bottles that I thought were really interesting. The Sadie 2020.
Yeah, these Sadie wines, they're like kind of auction darlings from South Africa. We see them every few weeks and they're really expensive. They're really expensive.
This one's $80, has two bids on it already, taken to 82. This is the Columella. And then we've got this 06 Klein Constantina Vinde Constance 500 milliliter. We've got 12 of those for $100 a piece. I thought those were interesting.
Yeah, it's Klein Constantia we do see, fairly often, but yeah, the older ones are very expensive.
Yeah. Let's head over to Australia, shall we?
Yeah, nice batch of stuff from Aussie land this week.
Nice batch of stuff from Australia, from down under. I picked out this O2 Marquis Philip Shiraz Integrity.
Do you know this wine? This is such a marketing scam. It's perfect for you. They grew, these vines were like not even 2 years old, and they're like, we're going to make a sweet, super high priced blend out of this, and they made a fancy bottle. And by the way, the guy's name is Sparky Marquis. Most people don't know this, but that's how his name's actually pronounced. So it's Marquis Phillips, believe it or not. But
is that like Meritage?
I don't know. It's weird because everyone would only ever say Marquis. You see that word and you're like, oh, it's Marquis. But no, it's not. Apparently it's Sparky Marquis. And I was blown away. When this wine came out, it was such a big deal. And then I learned like years later that it turned out it was like literally 3-year-old vines. They just planted them. First batch of fruit from it, and it got big scores. Anyway,
for your buddy Robert Parker.
Yeah, see, you that's why you gravitated to it. You saw that score, you saw the label, you're like, oh yeah, I gotta try this. So you're the perfect audience for this wine.
No,
I love it.
You know what I'm looking at is I looked at it and I said to myself, I'm like, this is really interesting because I think of Marquis Philip Shiraz as a much lower price point. And to see it,
right. But like, let's see if we can sell.
Sell like a 140.
I want you to buy it, and I want you to drink it, and honestly tell me what you think, because I don't know how well this wine is aging. And
I'm guessing it's like a fruit.
I haven't checked your bros over at Cellar Tractor to see what they're saying, but I'd be very curious to see how it's
I did check my bros over at Cellar Tractor, right? And what they are saying is amazing Aussie Shiraz at age 20. The hype was that these fruit bombs wouldn't age well. That's not the case. So
I'm curious. I would love to try these because there was so much speculation and hype going on back then, and I was like amazed to learn how young the fruit was. But hey, if they're aging that well, that's super impressive.
It's hard to say. Look, I haven't tried it. I will tell you the tasting note. Now, granted, I've looked at the last 5 tasting notes. 3 of them are from the same person, but 3 different people giving tasting notes over the last 5 years have said that this stuff is spectacular now.
Huh, that's wild.
So, it's one of those things where it's like, it's hard to say, but I will say if you look at the last, let's say 7 years worth of tasting notes, they're very kind to this bottle.
Oh, well, I'm kind of blown away. I had no idea because I haven't tasted it in years and years and years. And I didn't think it was amazing back then, but maybe.
Changing his tune, walking it back.
No, I want to try it. That's what I'm saying. It's like
walkering it back. That's what he's doing. Walkering back his spoofulated poodle.
Yeah, I'll always push forth with trash talk to begin with, and then back
with reckless abandon. Trash talk first.
Okay, look. Moving on. I would rather spend twice $140 on 2 bottles of Leeuwin Art Series Chardonnay because we have both of 17 and 18 in at $70 a piece. That's what I'd spend my $140 on. I'd buy both those. Many times before I'd buy the Integrity.
I selected the Leeuwin Art Series. So basically, I've introduced this to you because I had it right on my list.
No, these wines can age. They can age. We've sold older vintages for years. We've sold, it's one of those wines that is kind of interesting that they can last so long. But anyway. They're Art Series Chardonnay. They're delicious. There's 98 Henschke Hill of Grace. There's 98 Penfolds Grange and 01. And yeah.
So here's my concern is that Leeuwin is just they're trying to put art on to make up for bad wine. They're just let's put some art on the label.
You've got to try the wine. You've got to try it. They're amazing. That's an amazing Chardonnay. It's really, really good. It's really, really good.
Let's head over
It's
to
not cheap too. It's like it's
No,
at
it's
retail, it's very expensive.
one of the 18 has a bid on it, taking to 71.
Oh, it's got a bid. Yeah, it didn't have a bid on a couple days ago.
A couple of bottles of the 98 Grange too. Let's head over to Chile. Interestingly enough, I figured you would appreciate this. 2014 Concha y Toro Don Melchor Cabernet Sauvignon for $90. As you well know, and I know you're about to say this, but I'm going to beat you to it. It was number 90 in Wine Spectator's Top 100 in 2017, which means in 2017, there were only 89 wines better than this. That's it. That's it. There were only, out of all the wine made in the world, only 89 bottles outperformed the 2014 Concha y Toro Don Melchor Cabernet Sauvignon.
It looks like there's 18. There's 18 in as well, and it's funny because if you look at the 18, it has a little sticker on the neck that says 100 points from James Suckling, which is also interesting because I don't think we have the James Suckling score on the site, which I'll have to look up and make sure that's actually correct. But yeah, it's got a neck tag that says 100 points, which is great. Yeah, this wine, the Don Melchor, have you had this wine? Have you had Don Melchor? It's good.
Yeah. I mean, I've done Melchor in the past. It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
I mean, it is definitely, I mean, I would say it's definitely in my top 91 wines of 2017.
Well, it's always actually done very well at auction. In fact, I think in certain vintages, and if I'm not mistaken, it actually did get the number one wine in one vintage, and it went quite crazy. But anyway.
Okay. So the other one I want to mention in Argentina is this 96 Catena Alta Tikal Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon from Catena Zapata. And the reason I'm mentioning this, so first of all, it's 96. So it's got quite a bit of age, especially for, South American wine, right? I feel like we don't see as many, long age South American wines. $40. No. The most recent tasting notes from my best friend Java Chip, Cellar Tracker, says this stuff is actually pretty good. And actually, when I look at the last, let's say 10 years worth of tasting notes, they treat it very kindly, especially for, we're talking about a wine with 28 years of age, $40. So I thought that one would be a really cool one for someone to give a try because it, again, according to tasting notes, it's singing right now.
Yeah, that's actually that'd be a neat find because you could put together like a mid-90s Cabernet tasting and throw that in the mix and
just throw everybody off.
Exactly.
Throw everyone up.
No clue if you had, well, unless you had like some sneaky expert in there. It was like, oh, this tastes like Argentinian Cabernet, but from no, that
exactly Argentinian Cabernet. Right?
Yeah, then you're dealing with somebody who really knows their stuff. But no, that's a fascinating one because some of the mid-90s cabs from California, I've been sampling those recently, and they're some of them are holding up amazingly well, other ones not as much, and so I'd love to know how this is drinking. So that's a cool find.
See. You were about to make fun of me. You're about to take the piss out of me.
Oh, no, I'm sure I will.
Walkering it back.
I'm sure I'll have plenty of reasons to make fun of you for something else. But anyway,
what did I miss, Paul? I mean, we went all around the world. What did I miss?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's anything. I did want to go back to Spain really quickly because these wines come up fairly often.
No direct flights from Argentina. Sorry. No direct flight.
No. I just want to say, we don't often get to chat about wines from across the world because we've added this kind of new segment, if you will, where we kind of run around the globe and find interesting picks. And there are these Comando G La Bruja de Rosas wines that pop in every so often. And some of them are very, very expensive. And so I'm actually quite curious. But this week there's 19 and 21, and they're not expensive. The 21 is actually $30 and the 19 is 45. So I did want to mention that because these seem to be very hip these days. And like I said, other labels from Comando G La Bruja are very expensive, or Comando G, I should say. I think La Bruja de Rosas is the designation, but I'm no expert, so I can't say what exactly these wines are. Anyway, that's probably what wraps it up for our worldwide trip.
Awesome. And with that, this has been Around the World with Jeff Gurn and Paul, the Wait, what was it even today? The Shogun of Shiraz?
Is that what you called me? I can't remember. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Our last podcast, you were the Swami of Syrah. That's right. That's right. Your names are going to add up, and you'll eventually be like one of those old timey monarchs, where they're like
Old timey monarchs.
Yeah. Like
Louis the 14th or something.
The Patriarch of Provence, the Tribune of Tartaric Acid, the Shogun of Shiraz.
Yeah, but they're all nonsense, so they're not going to have any weight.
Swami of Syrah, first of his name.
All right. Let's wrap it up.
With WineBid's finally hammered, this has been Jeff McGurn and Paul Walker wishing you happy bidding and cheers.
Cheers.